I call the member for Layla.
Move the motion relating to school funding in the terms in which it appears on the notice paper.
Member for Layla.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I rise today on what is an incredibly disappointing day for everyone who works in education, for every parent in this country who was giving this government an opportunity to fulfil the promise they made before the 2013 election. Deputy Speaker, I know where I was when I heard the member for Warringah, who was then the Leader of the Opposition, make the promise that there'd be no cuts to education.
That's right.
I remember distinctly where I was when he and the then Shadow Minister Pyne made the promise that no matter what school your child went to, they would get the same money under a Liberal government. They promised they were on a unity ticket. I know where I was. I remember the exact moment. I also remember exactly what I thought. And what I thought was, that's a lie.
Yeah.
And I still know now that that was a lie, because in 2.5 years they have done nothing but make excuses for not fulfilling that promise,
right.
Deputy Speaker. They have done nothing. And then, at the death knell, in the last sitting week of the 44th Parliament, they make an announcement of $1.2 billion, which is far from Year 5 and 6 of Gonski, far from what they promised at the 2013 election, and far from what a Shorten-led Labor government will deliver to this country after the next election. Because on this side of the House, Deputy Speaker, we understand the transformative nature of education. We understand that there is no innovation without education. We understand that education needs to be resourced appropriately. We understand the difference that a focus nationally, backed up by the resources that classroom teachers need, will make to our children's lives, to our children's futures, and to the future prosperity of this country, Deputy Speaker. Labor understands this. We understand that we will be a prosperous nation if we have equity in our education system, and that is what Labor will deliver, Deputy Speaker. Now, unlike those opposite, this morning we've had the Prime Minister say that this is more than a usual budget, that at the end of this term of government setting out a new agenda. What a joke, Deputy Speaker. It's not a new agenda, it's an old agenda. It's a very old agenda. It enshrines privilege where it already is and denies all Australian children access to the kind of education that they need to build a strong economy for the future, Deputy Speaker. This government is true to its ideology. Its ideology says those who already have will have more, those who have less will have less. That's what this government's about. And their announcement on education today confirmed it. Unlike those opposite, Deputy Speaker, a Labor government has made a commitment for years 5 and 6 of Gonski funding. That is the sector-blind, needs-based funding that this country needs and that we know this country needs. There is no question about the review that was done, the broad-based review led by David Gonski. There is no question about the findings of that review and what they would deliver to this country. No one questions it, except those opposite who've slammed shut funding for schools in this country. Those opposite who stand behind a Prime Minister who most recently suggested that we'd just pull away and walk away from state school funding and revert to the Howard-era funding, where private schools see Commonwealth dollars but state schools do not, Deputy Speaker. This government cannot be taken seriously on education. This government is a joke when it comes to education. Now, we've heard this morning, we've heard the Minister for Education out doing television all morning telling us how wonderful this is, and the best part for me, telling us how Labor were going to just let the states do whatever they liked with the funding. Well, if that's not a misrepresentation of the facts, Deputy Speaker, there was only one minister. There was only one minister who cut the strings on the states while he changed the funding arrangements. That was the member for Sturt, the man who says he fixed education. The man who says he fixed education, who cut the strings and allowed the cost shifting to occur. Labor will deliver on its promise. Labor will deliver on its legacy for education, Deputy Speaker. We have fully costed $37 billion to go into education across the next decade, Deputy Speaker. The choice is clear for the Australian people, for every parent, for every teacher, for every member of our community. The choice is clear. Labor will deliver on education. This government has failed the test at every step for 2.5 years since it came to government, Deputy Speaker.